Hello founders, welcome back to part 3 of my video series where I give you the real truth about what it's like to raise pre-seed or seed funding. I'm going to share with you the truth here, and that is you do not need traction to raise money for your startup. Kind of. A big fat caveat there, kind of. And this kind of dovetails off the second part if you listen to the truth of raising money from day one. But you're going to hear a lot of times traction. Investors aren't going to invest until you have a certain amount of traction. You're going to hear this from investors. Come back when you have more traction. Let me break that down for you and explain the reason people say that and what to do, especially if you're an early stage founder. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, 7-time funded founder. 2 exits just means I failed a bunch of times. Hopefully for your benefit, I like to use videos like this to try and minimize the catastrophic mistakes that you might make. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm hoping that I can ease the pain and the suffering and the gnashing of teeth and the weeping that comes with it just a little more, because doing this is hard enough when it comes to fundraising, especially if you're an early stage founder. In my day, I have raised over 9 figures of funding for my startups and other startups. I've been an angel investor as well, and I've also been a general partner for accelerators, late stage, and then I'm a general partner right now for a venture studio and an alternative funding accelerator where we get smaller rounds of funding for startups, but we do it in alternative ways to the typical go to investors, sell some equity, all that stuff. Do you need traction to raise money? No, you do not. Kind of. Let's continue. Let me explain, break this down a little bit. Investors don't like risk. That's just what it comes down to. But the type of risk and the level of risk is different every investor. Let me explain how a VC fund works. There is a general partner that comes up with an investment thesis and goes out and says, I think I can take other people's money, I can invest in startups and get a 50x return. The bigger the return or the better that general partner can do, the easier it is to raise money from LPs, which are limited partners. And they're the ones that give their hard-earned money to the general partner and say, allocate that and I expect a return by the end of the year or by 5 years. We need to be invested in a unicorn and I get to 50x my money. Even though VCs in the startup world are supposed to be investing in all the innovative products and all the innovative, disruptive companies out there, and you would think they're massive risk takers, but they're not. The general partner might be all about innovation, but the LPs are the ones that sign the agreement between the LP and the GP saying, you are going to take care of my money. And so the LP might be more conservative, or the LP is only going to say, I'm here because you're going to give me a return on my investment. I don't care what you invest in, but get me a return or else you're in big trouble. And then you pile all those LPs up and everybody's got different opinions and they're putting pressure on the GP. Here's what happens. Things start to get conservative. And that's the reason you get a lot of herd investing or thematic investing, such as in the beginning of 2023, it was all about generative AI. All the LPs look and they go, holy crap, these generative AI projects and companies are reaching unicorn or decacorn valuations. Hey, GP, what are you doing to get my money into that? And then directions start to change and everybody gets in there. But look what happens. Even though it seems like a conservative bet, when you've got all these people piling into one industry, then it becomes very difficult to become the winner there. Now you've diluted. And that's the reason there's this gap between founders that go out and say, I'm going to go contrarian to what all the investors are thinking, where all the customers are, where the noise and the buzz is. And I'm going to look in the future and do something contrarian to that, do something that might not be popular, that people are not looking at. It's overlooked, underserved, underrepresented. It's this little tiny niche that people go, that's a really dumb idea. Therefore, this gap between aren't there supposed to be investors that want to innovate and what happens here in terms of the innovative, disruptive solution that you're proposing, where's the money going to come from? And that's the reason we tell founders, go get traction. But do you absolutely need that traction to get investment? Well, the more conservative investors are going to say, come back when you have more traction. But there are investors out there that care less about traction and they care more about other things. such as you as the founder? Do you have the domain expertise? Can you show that you will execute, that you will go figure some things out? Because a lot of times I'll look at a founder and I'm not investing in their company. I'm not investing in their product. I'm investing in them because they've shown something, this X factor. There's rocket fuel in their veins. And I think to myself, I want in on this early. It's like a talent scout. Talent scouts go out there and they might see someone just walking along or acting like a goofball or just have this presence about them in public and they contact them. Is that going to pan out every single time? Absolutely not. The chances are really slim. But there are investors out there that will look at you and say, I really believe in this person. On top of which they believe that your idea, if it's wrong the first time out of the gate, that you have not found that secret sauce, that special insight, that you are the type of founder that's going to keep pivoting and researching and learning. And I'm not going to say pivoting. Sometimes a big pivot is required, but you're going to continue to iterate and show that investor, hey, I may not have it figured out, but I know where to look and I know how to be responsible with your money. You will get investment based on that alone. It also includes founders if you've been successful in another domain, such as you won a Nobel Prize or you got 30 patents. I know founders who've raised significant amounts of money, millions, because they've held a portfolio of patents that have nothing to do with their startup whatsoever. Or you've raised VC before and you've exited. You're probably not in that crowd, but that's something for you to look forward to. Or you have worked for a company that you are now trying to disrupt. Let's say you were a lead engineer at Apple, or you were the CTO at some big telecom company, and now you figured out, because you are so close to the problem, you see that little entry and you're going to disrupt the company that you work for. That can raise you money as well. The other thing that's more important than traction is velocity. Let me explain the reason it's more important than traction. You might be thinking, wait a second, Ed, you're really contradicting yourself in this video now, as I'm trying to show you what we take as gospel or what we've learned about fundraising, especially up to 2021, is not going to be true today, especially moving forward. Velocity is more important than traction. Let's say you've got two founders. One founder says, all right, we have 10,000 customers. We've been working on this for 2 years. 2 years, and here we are, 10,000 customers. That's founder A. Founder B says, you know what? We stood this MVP up in a month, and in the first month, we've got 100 customers. 100 customers. We would do as fast as we can, and here's what we learned from those 100 customers. Which founder are you going to invest in? Believe you me, it's founder B. Because of burn. Because velocity is so important and how fast the industry moves. If I have founder A and they've spent 2 years burning through their money that they've raised, which might have been impressive in the beginning, to get 10,000 customers, okay, so now it's going to take another 2 years to get to 20,000 or 30,000 customers. But if I look at the founder that got there in a month but had less customers, 100 customers, I can extrapolate how fast they might be able to move, on top of which there's less burn. If you can use my money and figure out how to get 100 customers in a month, well, then in the next month, can we get 200, 400? On top of which, I've only invested enough money to get them to 100 customers in 1 month. We can make some adjustments, iterate or pivot faster. So get to failure faster. Validate or invalidate your idea as fast as possible. That speaks so much more in terms of the credibility you have as a founder over traction. Time is the great equalizer when it comes to evaluating traction. If you can get little traction in faster time than other people get kind of bigger traction in a long period of time, you've got it. And that's going to go right to, do they see you as a founder who can execute quickly, who can iterate, who listens to feedback, and on top of which, the type that can bring other people on who will just move as fast as you? Do the Mark Zuckerberg thing, Facebook, move fast and break things? Are you that founder that lives by that? And can you build a team that lives by that? That bodes really well for you, because then I can see you as the founder that runs a 300-person company, a 3,000-person company, making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, because you're moving so fast and you've got the character, the skills, that executive presence to really show and be impressive, be that formidable founder that gets shit done really, really quickly. Investors are going to love you for it. So do you need traction to raise money? Not really. No, you don't. Kind of. You need traction, but there are other things that can help you raise money in the interim for that quick $10,000, $50,000 check. It's all about how much risk you're willing to take. I want you to think very clearly. Here's your action item. If you take a check with little traction, the bigger that check is, the more risk you are willing to take. And the more risk that investor's willing to take, that requires a gut check. You have to think to yourself, am I willing to take that risk? Run through a scenario. Think to yourself, if I picked a $50,000 check and lost it all, what would that look like for me? How would I feel? How would that affect my relationships? And if you're not ready to do that, then go get more traction. Get more traction and then take that $50,000 check when things are a little more stable and solid and you're ready to take on that risk. The bigger the check, if you take a $100,000 check with no traction, it's going to be harder to get that check, but it's a bigger risk and that investor is going to want a bigger return. That's the other thing you want to think about. Not only am I willing to take that risk, but I'm willing to sell and give away a larger portion of my company. If that's not you, and you're thinking to yourself, I want investors, but I want them to only have 20% of my company, 10% of the company, go get more traction. But if you're like, YOLO it, I'm ready to take that risk, and that's part of my DNA, my personality, I can handle it, and the investors can handle it, and they understand, then go for it. You don't need traction. Just get that domain expertise, show them that you can execute with velocity, and start having those conversations, and you'll do great. I hope that's helpful. That's part 3. Stick around. We're going to be publishing part 4 coming up very soon. In the meantime, do the social media thing, like, comment, subscribe. It always helps. I love the feedback. And always, I can't end without thanking everybody who's already in our accelerator programs, who's with me at startups.com, where the different types of workshops and have attended that have interacted with me, give me great encouragement. I appreciate you all. You're the ones that inspire these types of videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.